Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Melanie Griffin and I'm the founder of Violet Project. We are a Midlands-based charity and we talk and support individuals around suicide. A little bit about me. I am bereaved by suicide. My sister took her own life back in 2011. Um, and off the back of that, I decided that I was going to transition and work in the world of suicide prevention. So my background is I'm an insurance broker by trade. And after my sister took her own life, I decided that we needed to make a difference in the community and realize actually how big an impact suicide does have on families and communities. So started working in suicide prevention, and 3 years ago I decided to set up a charity and we support across the West Midlands. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about suicide, a little bit about the charity, why it's important to talk about suicide and some statistics around suicide. But the first thing I just want to say really is make sure you look after yourself. It's a tough conversation to have. It's a tough subject matter. So make sure you are looking after yourself. If you need to pause this Zoom session, absolutely fine. Step away, look after yourself, but do come back to it because it is important. You know how to have the conversation and how to support somebody. So a little bit about us as a charity. We're 3 years old. We are based in Coventry. And our primary aim is to make sure that we support and create a world where suicide is no longer considered an option, and where there are communities that are affected by suicide, that they are supported through that loss. And that's really, really important. So we do this through a number of different avenues. So the first part is our prevention stream. So we provide talks, we provide support to workplaces through training. We've got a very good variety actually of training packages that we deliver. We attend events, we attend and provide stalls, and we bring suicide into the community. This is really, really important to make sure that we normalise suicide or the conversation around suicide as much as possible. And at events where families are out and about and having a great day, it's really good to have mental health awareness in those days embedded. And that's what we do as part of our community work. We're also part of national suicide prevention and bereavement strategy boards, as well as regional boards, to make sure that what we need in local areas is what we're getting and what the need is going to be met. Most important part that we actually work and support in is our support groups. And I'll talk about some of these support groups a little bit later on so that you can access these. You can make sure people are referred into these services so that you can really see how these services are there to offer support. It's to help avoid isolation. It's to make sure that people and their needs are being met in that immediate moment. And that's why we started to bridge the gap between helplines and offering real local support. So the main thing to think about is a very common myth that, if we talk about suicide, then we're going to put the idea in somebody's head. And I kind of want to highlight that just before we go ahead, that actually that is a myth. Yes, by talking about suicide unsafely, so talking in depth about method, which is how someone chooses to end their own life, isn't helpful. However, by talking about suicide and having suicide in the community at events and making it almost like a normalized conversation, as we do with mental health, we are okay to talk about it. What happens is by talking about suicide safely, we become a safe person, and people know then that actually I can talk to this person about my mental health. I can tell them that I'm struggling. They might not be able to fix everything. They might not be able to offer direct support, but they'll be able to get me to some local services that are able to help me. And then that's what we want people to be aware of. So you are okay to talk about suicide as long as you do it in a safe way. And there are some national suicide prevention media guidelines that we ask people to follow, which you can have a little look at, or we can send them to you. But as I say, if you're talking about it in general and you're raising awareness and you're sharing posts, it is okay to talk about suicide. So why should we talk about suicide? Well, I think the most important thing when we are talking about suicide is actually to understand the number of people that suicide does affect. So we hear that people will say that, that there's been local suicide in their local community. And for many people, it's a sad story and they carry on with their day. But actually, there are people that are lifelong affected by suicide. So what I want you to do is just to be aware of how big an issue suicide actually is. And so what we've got here is the classic iceberg diagram that a lot of training use as part of their awareness raising. There's always a lot more going on underneath the iceberg than what is displayed as part of our community awareness raising. So just want you to think about how many people died by suicide in the year 2023. And it's not a game of higher or lower. It's not, a sort of shout out game. These are individuals who've passed away by suicide and had their death recorded as a suicide. And I'm just going to pop that up on the screen now so you can see. And in the year 2023, there were 7,055 recorded deaths by suicide. As we all know, with the iceberg, there's always more going on underneath. And in this case, those are deaths that have been recorded as suicide. And if the death hasn't been put down as suicide, then that number isn't, or that death, that bereavement isn't going to be included in those statistics. And it is really important that we get the correct statistics on file, because then we can get more prevention funding, that beautiful word funding that many charities will talk to you about. The more funding we can get for suicide prevention work, the more lives that we can save by suicide. And that's the aim of any suicide prevention charity, is to prevent death by suicide. And the funding really, really does help. So as I say, there's always more deaths that are unfortunately lost to suicide that aren't always recorded. But it's really important to understand that we do lose more people to suicide than we do to other causes of death. So, for example, road traffic deaths, we lose, for every one road traffic death, we lose 3 people to suicide. And knife crime, as a mom of 2 teenage boys, I'm petrified of knife crime. And I'm not going to say that I'm not, because it's something that really does worry me every time my teenagers leave the house. However, for every 1 knife crime death, we lose 23 people to suicide. And that's staggering, really, with the amount of suicide or knife crime prevention that we do in the community. Rightly so, absolutely. I want, organisations to go into schools to talk about knife crime. But I also want the same for suicide. And I think it's really important that we do start to raise awareness of suicide in our young people. My sister was 13 when she took her own life. Unfortunately, I was also bereaved by suicide a couple of months ago. Again, I lost another family member. And I think it's really important that we make sure that we put suicide prevention as a key area to focus on. So when we talk about suicide, I think it's really important to kind of understand some of the signs that may be out there. And as part of our training, we go into this a lot more, but not for 30 minutes. It's a really important part of our training. But these are some of the signs that may be suggesting that somebody is struggling. So emotions and feelings, thoughts or verbal things that they might say, physical signs that someone might be struggling, behaviours might suggest that someone is struggling, and also triggers and events. And what I've done is to give you some examples here on this page. So, for example, it might be that they have a sense of feeling worthless, or they might be feeling lonely, they might be feeling sad. And these are things that you can kind of pick up on people that, oh, Joe Bloggs is feeling, or, looks a little bit sad today. And if you're starting to notice patterns, then it's a time to have a cup of tea, grab a coffee, go for a walk and just have a little bit of a conversation with them. It might also be things that are said, all my problems are going to be end soon, or I'm just so tired, there's just no point, I can't do anything right, or just my thoughts are all over the place at the minute, I can't keep everything in check. It might be a trigger or an event. So these are times are around transition or a feeling of loss. So we always think of that around bereavement or breakup or marriage breakups, or parental alienation, where we're not able to see our children. But it's also really important to understand that those transition times may also be to an outsider key points in an individual's life that might be like a really key time, like a sibling's getting married, or the young person, for example, is heading off to university, or somebody's got the career, the job of their career, and they're really happy to move on. But behind there might be a sense of stress, there might be a sense of loss that that person is struggling with. So it's just to be aware that some events might be seen as a happy time. And it might be, like I say, a sibling getting married might be great for the sibling. But behind the scenes, that person is like, well, why have I never met the love of my life? Why couldn't my marriage work out? Why am I divorced? Why have I never met anybody that I can settle down with? So it's really important that we consider events as well that could be seen as a happy event. And there's lots of different ones, physical signs that someone might be struggling, weight loss, weight gain. Some of us, myself included, overeat when we're really, really stressed. We don't always, not eat. So it's really important that we pay attention to overeating and undereating. It might be that someone maybe is no longer necessarily taking care of themselves. Their appearance has changed. They're not, having their hair's not washed, or their clothes are dirty or unironed, or just a sense of hygiene has slipped. So just having those sort of like being aware of some of those signs. It might be that they're struggling with their sleep and they haven't been able to recharge their battery. Those are some of the signs that we're kind of asking people to look out for. And there's also the behavior side of it, where as humans, we are very, very good at masking. And there are many suicides that people will say, but it was just completely out of the blue. There were no signs. Absolutely. In many times there are people that will have had no warning signs at all that they have taken their own life. And that's why the prevention work is really, really important, to embed suicide awareness in the community, have posters out in the community, so that those individuals are able to access or see those services and normalise that actually, look, I am struggling with my mental health, but there are these services that can help and support as well. But for some people, there are going to be these signs that we talk about, and it's going to be that they withdraw from their hobbies, or they start dropping out of Thursday night football or Friday night at the pub with their mates. Those are the people that we want you to check in with and ask twice. We always have this ask your friend, how are you? And everyone is usually very good at saying, I'm fine. Actually, how are you really? And usually then it's like, well, actually, I'm not amazing. I've got a headache, or I'm really, really struggling, or I'm having problems at home. People are more likely to talk to you if you say, and how are we really? Have that conversation and check in with them. So there's some signs that people might be struggling. And what we want you to do is ask the hard questions. It's, first of all, saying, let's grab a cup of tea, let's go for a little walk. Just want to check in with you to see how you are. Have a little private meeting at work, go to a meeting room. Those types of times allow someone to open up in private. It's really easy sometimes to think, oh, I haven't got time for this today, I need to leave, or I've got them back-to-back meetings. It's really hard to fit in working and supporting, but we really do need you to ask those questions. Don't bury your head in the sand and think, oh, I'll ask tomorrow, I'll ask another day, because the to-do list is forever growing, or that individual may take their own life in between you thinking I should ask and talk to them, and you never get that opportunity. So ask the question. You don't need to have it perfect. You don't need to be a full suicide intervention worker. That's not the aim of it. It's just to sort of say, look, I want to have a conversation. I'm noticing that you're not your normal self, you're not coming to the pub with us, you started to come into work and you're missing deadlines, you just seem to be a little bit withdrawn. I just want to check in with you and see how you are. Ask probing questions. Absolutely fine to kind of ask these questions, find out what's going on. They might disclose something that they're going through that you've not got any experience of. It's okay to say that sounds like it's something really, really tough. It sounds really hard. I've never experienced that, but I'm here for you and I want to talk to you. So show empathy, show understanding. You're okay to tell the person that you want to help and you might want to support them, or you can help them. Again, you don't need to know all the answers. That's where services are out there to help. There are many, many services that focus on different points of view around marriage breakup, depression, gambling, domestic abuse, whatever the circumstances might be, there are services out there that can support and offer guidance to you to help the person. So you are okay to get those services involved. What we don't want people to do, though, is to keep plans of suicide secret. And you will hear people say, please don't tell my partner, please don't tell my boss, please don't tell my parents. Okay, who are we going to tell them? Because we do need to tell somebody. We need to keep this kind of safety blanket around somebody. To create a safety blanket is really important so that it's not all on you to keep somebody safe. And we do need to tell people. Every organisation will have different safeguarding policies, and it's really important that you look at what your safeguarding policy is in your workplace. But ultimately, what we don't want you to do is keep a plan of suicide secret. It's really important that we create safety. So again, if you're really unsure of that, there are some amazing helplines out there that will be able to offer advice and guidance around helping to support you keep somebody safe. But we want you to ask the question. We want you to build the confidence in supporting somebody. But it's really important we do ask the question, because people will say, actually, yeah, I did think they weren't their normal self, but I just hadn't got around to asking them. So do ask the questions, do find time to offer that support. And if that's not you, because you've got a full diary, or you might be struggling yourself, we all have good and bad days, actually speak to a colleague or speak to your line manager and say, look, I'm really worried about Joe Blogs. And this is what I've noticed. I just want to find out how we can support them. And it might be then they say, okay, we'll have the conversation with them. It might be that they want to get HR involved, but sometimes just that friendly chat can be that first point of call. So do ask questions. And if you do feel that they are thinking of suicide, just ask them, be direct. Are you thinking of suicide? Worst case scenario, they come back and say, no, like, why did you think that? That's fine if they don't, or they aren't thinking of suicide. All that's done is create safety, because they know that at any point, if they are or do think of suicide down the line and down the future, they know, actually, I can go and speak to them about suicide because they were okay to talk about it previously. But actually what it does is, if you do get a yes back, it's okay, thank you for sharing that. Let's have a conversation. Let's see what's going on, find out what has led to those thoughts of suicide. We need to know what's led to those thoughts of suicide, like I said, so we can get some support services involved, but also to kind of make sure that they are aware that there is help and support around for their mental health as well. Unfortunately, if you are affected and you do lose somebody to suicide, whether this is personally, whether this is in your profession, then we do offer suicide bereavement support. We provide support across the West Midlands. We've got groups in different areas, and we provide support to the individual family if needed. We have groups where you can come together and you can be around other people that are bereaved by suicide, all at various different stages, some 15, 20 years ago, some maybe very newly bereaved. But what that does is allow people to help and explain what their journey's been like, for people to realise that actually there is life moving forward. For many people, myself included, I was like, my life's over. It's the most painful thing I've ever had to go through. And I never realised at this point that I would be able to have a fulfilling life. It's different to what I thought life would be, but I have a fulfilling life, and I want to make sure that people are aware that your life isn't over, and there is help and there is hope out there that things will get, I don't want to say better, but they do improve. But in those first few immediate months and years, it can feel very overwhelming. So we provide one-on-one support, we provide group support. We will handle media inquiries. Sometimes if it's a very public suicide, or whether it's maybe a very young person or a celebrity, for example, the media picks up on this, and we offer support to the family and workplaces to make sure that any statements are given are in line with guidance and media guidelines, and we will also handle it on their behalf if needed. We will also provide support through the coroner court process to the family, to professionals as well. And you can refer yourself, you can refer as a professional with consent from the client on our website, and we will then get in touch We say within a week, but it's usually within 72 hours. We get in touch with the person and find out what they need, what level of support they maybe want from us. We do that with the individual because everyone's needs will be different. Some people will want us to come and visit the next day and sit down and have a cup of tea and have a chat. Some people might say, actually, I don't need anything right now because I'm just too much in shock. Can you get back in touch with me in a week, a month? And we'll be like, absolutely. So we provide that support, and that's one of our biggest supports that we offer as part of Violet Project. And it's a really vital service. Postvention suicide bereavement support is a suicide prevention. People who are bereaved by suicide are higher risk of dying by suicide themselves. So it's really important that we embed suicide bereavement support into our communities and people are aware of how to refer into that service. So like I say, you can refer on our website. Any questions, any concerns, absolutely please pick up the phone to us. That's not a problem. We've got lots of different services. Like I say, we're 3 years old and we are growing. And as we secure more volunteers, as we secure more funding, this service expands. So we have a self-harm carer support group. This is not for the person who self-harms directly. We make sure they're referred into CAMS, adult services. This is for those that maybe, again, the people who are around that person and when professionals aren't. So carers, parents, partners. We offer that support to them through a support group where it's like checking in with them, how they're doing, how their loved one is doing, and making sure that they're referred into those professional services. We've also got a teenager support group, and this is one I'm really proud of. It's just been launched. It starts in January. There's a massive gap in how we support young people who are affected by suicide. Generally, most of the services are 18 plus. Our adult service is 18 plus, but there's a gap between what we offer to young people. Many young people are offered minimal counselling support. And for a young person who might be 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, they're sitting in a room with what they would say is maybe an older person, which might be someone like me that's 40, 45. But to them, that's a big age difference to be sat in a room with a counsellor. So this is the kind of pilot that we've offered, and it's one that we're really proud of. It's a small, intimate support group where myself plus 2 young people who've also been bereaved by suicide that are being trained up as well in suicide, mental health. And we offer a service and a support group where we do trauma-informed grief journaling, we do grief boxes, we do letters to heaven, we do poetry, we do rapping, and we also do days out. It's not all doom and gloom. It's also kind of coming together to meet other people like them that have been bereaved by suicide and actually building a suicide bereavement family and knowing that they're not alone. For that young person, that might be the first time suicide has come into their life. It might be that they've never experienced any sort of suicide in the community or family or friends or anything like that. So for them, it's really important that they realise they're not alone. There are other people like them, like us, that have been bereaved by suicide. So we're really proud of that service. And again, that can be referred in on the website. We've also got an OCD support group. All of us here at Violet Project have got very different backgrounds. Some of us are very suicide focused. Some of us are mental health, suicide prevention focused. One of our team members has a background in OCD and struggling with their mental health, and they run this support service that is available to individuals that may struggle with their experiences around OCD and their mental health. So that's another service. And any good service will have a walk and talk support group, getting out in the fresh air. And this service is available to anybody, whether you access any of our other services, whether it's that you just want a bit of companionship. It's a service that we offer. Again, it's a Coventry-based one. As we get more funding and we kind of get more volunteers, we'll expand the different services. Some are Wolverhampton-based, some are Coventry, some are Black Country, various different ones. But as most of our volunteers are Coventry-based, a lot of our services are based in and around Coventry. But it's a walk and talk, free refreshments, a chance to just kind of like get in the fresh air, have a chat, see how you're doing and receive support. And then, like I say, we've got our suicide bereavement support service that is available again across the West Midlands. So lots of different services that are available. Part of our prevention work is we deliver age appropriate training and support sessions from Key Stage 2 upwards. So we do assemblies around resilience and around managing your emotions. We like to do this from year 6 as they start transitioning into senior school. Very much a time of anxiety for young people, excitement absolutely about going to big school, but again, it's a very different transition from primary, infant and primary into senior school. So we build on the resilience and we talk about mental health, but it's all age appropriate. You know, we don't go in full blown suicide and talking about suicide with our young people. It's age appropriate about mental health. And we have 90-minute suicide awareness sessions available for adults, half day. We do 1 day suicide intervention, and we do the assist training, which is a worldwide accredited intervention skills training that kind of doctors, nurses, first responders would be having as well. We do lots of different wellbeing sessions, so stress, anxiety, social media, helping young people to kind of body positivity, around understanding that not everybody looks like they've just walked out of a TV show. You know, it's really important that we ensure that we instill body positivity. Managing social media and kind of this portraying of perfection online isn't really what's going on. So we work from Key Stage 2 upwards, and we work with schools and we work with education settings to embed that support. And like I said, we do adult mental health and suicide prevention training. All of our training, it's quite a unique selling point, really. All of our training, any money made off our training goes back into running our support services. And that's why we're able to keep those services for free. And that's really important, I think, for most ESG policies and strategies in workplaces. And we're quite proud of that every single penny goes back into running those groups and services and allows us to keep it cost-free for individuals. Ultimately, we are a community charity, and we want help from the community to raise awareness of suicide. Suicide is everybody's business. It isn't down to the likes of myself and others that have either been bereaved by suicide or struggled with their mental health to be out there talking about suicide. We don't want people to reach us from the point of that their community has been affected by suicide. We can only do this, though, with community help. And what we would ask is if there is any opportunities for your community to do fundraisers, if it's like a dress down day at school, pay £1, cake sales, or for example, in your workplace, it might be that you're a hairdresser, for example, and £1 per cut and colour might be that it goes to Violet Project. Anything like that really does help us. We've got Facebook birthday fundraisers. So if it's your birthday coming up, you can set one up and raise awareness, through funding, but also building the awareness of our social media and getting people to click and follow on those posts. The amount of people that do contact us and say, oh, a friend shared a post and I've seen it on, and I thought I'd just give you a call to see what it's all about, or I've had a look at your website and I can see you do X, Y, or Z. That's really important to us for our visibility. So please do share, please do have a little nosy at our social media, and if a post aligns with you or kind of touches you, then please do share it to help raise awareness. If you've got any time for volunteering, absolutely, please do get in touch, whatever your skill set might be. If it's that you do yoga, or it might be that you're really good with policies and procedures or strategic work, or it might be that you'd want to volunteer as part of our outreach work or just ad hoc events, please do get in touch. It's very rare we ever say no to volunteers. So, do consider that. Some people might want to volunteer an hour a week, 2 hours a week, and some people might be like, actually, I just want to do an hour or two a month, or it might just be that I'm only available during school holidays. We would really appreciate that. If you're aware of any contracts that might be available or any funding out there, absolutely, please do let us know. It's really hard as a small grassroots charity, even though we are small and mighty, it's really hard to be seen by funders and commissioners compared to big national charities. But we are in our community, grassroots, working day in and day out with individuals who are struggling with their mental health, and we need just as much funding, visibility as possible. So that's what we would like to ask about, how we can all support in our community. The most important thing, just to kind of remind people as we come to the end, is that actually a conversation with someone can save a life. Whether it's yours because you are struggling, please do speak to somebody. Who that person might be is entirely your choice, whether it's a professional, whether it's a friend, whether it's a colleague, whether it's somebody that maybe you've helped before or they've helped you. Please do speak to them. But the most important is that actually speak to somebody, whether it's you, whether it's that you are having a conversation with somebody else. Let's normalize talking about mental health. Let's normalize talking about suicide. It's really important that we do this safely, but also quite openly, and raise awareness. If you're interested in anything else, absolutely, please do get in touch. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, and the one in the middle is our website. So please do take a moment to have a little look at us. It's violetproject.co.uk if you can't access the QR code. And on social media, we are Violet Project UK, all one word. And if you type that in, it will come up with our page. Any questions or queries, please do get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you in ways that we can collaborate and that we can support each other's organisations. So please do get in touch. Like I say, we're small and mighty, but we're here to make a difference. And ultimately, we are here to save a life. And that is really, really important to us. So thank you very much. That's it really from me. Thank you for attending and sitting through the whole half hour. Please do go and get yourself a cup of tea. Make sure you just take a few moments out away from the computer before you step back into life. And if you need anything, please do reach out. Thank you.